Kentucky update. Today we have some special guests with us to kick off the Team Kentucky update, where we're going to focus on the major gains that we've achieved in college enrollment that are benefiting our students and our families here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Today we're joined by Dr. Aaron Thompson, president of the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, Bluegrass Community and Technical College president Greg Feeney, and EKU president David McFadden. Thank you all. We'll be hearing from them soon about what these new enrollment statistics mean for Kentucky and how our major universities and our community colleges have worked to achieve an amazing accomplishment. My administration has been and always will be an education-first administration. So I am very proud to report that according to the National Student Clearinghouse, Kentucky has the highest total enrollment gains in the nation. Kentucky ranked second in undergraduate enrollment gains, and this is from the fall of 2022 to the fall of 2023. We were fourth in graduate enrollment gains. So between the fall 2022 and 2023, our Commonwealth experienced a 5.6% overall enrollment growth, including 5.5% growth in undergraduate enrollment and 4.9% growth in graduate enrollment. This means that Kentucky is one of the very first states to recover from the enrollment decreases virtually everyone saw during the pandemic. Folks, we are coming back stronger than ever. And as you can see, we are leading the nation. And how many additional folks that we are getting into our colleges and universities, undergraduate and graduate programs. We know that education is the key in solving so many of the challenges we face. It's how we lift our people out of poverty. It's how we create new cycles of success, how we continue our red-hot economy, and how we build a brighter future for every Kentuckian. I am just second-generation college in my family. I know the difference when my dad and his brothers and sisters became first-generation college and what it means, that it impacts your kids and your grandkids and your great-grandkids, that it makes intra-generational change, that this achievement, this increase is going to have a major impact, not just in the decades, but in the centuries to follow. We are going to continue to believe in and invest in public education here in Kentucky. It's why we have made and proposed record investments in pre-K through college education. Because as governor, but just as much as a dad, I want to make sure that no matter how big our young people dream here in Kentucky, that they can chase those dreams and get the education that they need to chase those dreams right here in the Commonwealth. That's why my Forward Together budget proposal adds nearly 8% to the base budgets for our 9 public institutions over the next 2 years. In our current budget, we made sure that for the first time in several years, all applicants for need-based student financial aid received it. Education not only helps our families, it helps continue our jump-started economy. The more Kentuckians we have trained and educated for jobs of the future, the better our economy will be and the easier it'll be. When any of these companies come in and say, where does my workforce come from? We can point not only to these great institutions you're going to hear from, but we can show them how we are gaining ground at just the right time. As for the first time ever, the largest companies in the world call us first. Companies that used to claim they didn't have our number or didn't know where we were are now looking at Kentucky as the destination, as the place to locate. So to tell us more about this great news, we'll first hear from Dr. Aaron Thompson. Right afterwards, we'll hear from BCTC President Greg Feeney, and then we'll hear right after that from President David McFadden. Aaron? Or Dr. Thompson? I'm still just Andy.
Yeah, you're Andy and I'm Aaron.
That's
the great thing about it. Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor. It is important for us to make this point really clear, not just that we're number one in the country in college enrollments, but we're number 2 in college completions. Now, that's important to understand because our goal to have 60% of our citizens with a post-secondary credential that matters is the only way we're going to have the workforce, Governor, to get us where we need to go to keep this economy going. Now, let me be clear about that. We can't leave anybody behind in that process. Whether you're low income, I'm from Clay County, Kentucky, born of an illiterate father, or if you're a person of color, no matter who it is, we have a place for you in higher education. So the presidents and I, years ago, before COVID, and by the way, I should say we're the #1 state to actually bounce back from COVID down enrollments. But before COVID, we came up with 4 big strategies. There's a lot to this. I won't go in great detail to make sure that we got the kind of outcomes we have this year. One is we focus on a P20 effort, because for us to have the kind of higher education system that we need to build the economy, we have to have a strong P12 system. So we connected that with our Commonwealth Education Continuum and a variety of other items to get the college going rate up from those in Kentucky that are graduating from high school. So we focused on that heavily. We focused on affordability. As a matter of fact, I'm proud to say Kentucky also reduced their student debt average by over $4,500 a year. So we're proud of that too. The second thing is we focused on student success. We wanted to have the outputs that it took to get us where we need to go in this economy. And I'm proud to say we've done that. Our campuses are focused on unmet needs. We focused on the student basic needs, providing them what they need. They also actually give more money to the students than the state and federal inputs together provided. So we focused on those students because it's, by the way, it's better to keep them. And the only 2 ways you're going to get enrollment gains is by getting new students and keeping those students to the point of graduation. Number 3, we said that we had to get more out-of-state students, but those out-of-state students had to get the education they needed and stay in the state, because it's going to take all of those to get us where we need to go. And number 4, we focused on adult learners, and our forward-moving strategies will be in those areas to keep this ball rolling. So it's important for me to say before I end this conversation that we know that 90% of the future jobs in Kentucky we have to have a post-secondary credential that matters. So we don't just focus on the quantitative piece of this, we focus on the qualitative piece. What should every one of our students know before they graduate? So we brought employers in on the front end with us to create a graduate profile that incorporated not only those technical academic skills they need, but also those employability skills like critical thinking. My goal is to do everything I can, along with the presidents, to say to you, Governor, and the state legislature, you know, we need funding to do this. We are the best return on investment that we have toward an economy. For every dollar the state puts in, we'll give you $67 in return. So more than anything else, this is just an indication of what we've been doing over the last several years, but it's also a new baseline for us to consider how to create this continuous improvement for Kentucky. Thank you, Governor, for the invitation.
Thank you, Governor. I'm so happy to be here today. Good news is always fun to share, and I have some great information from Bluegrass Community and Technical College that also represents the great work that we're doing within the entire system, all 16 colleges in KCTCS. I could talk about this all day, but due to time, I'm going to focus on just a few things. A vital part of our mission at the community college is being an open access institution. So what that means for us is we have students every semester that earn a 36, a 35, or 34 on their ACT. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have several students that test, unfortunately, as not being college ready. The great thing about what we do and a vital part of our mission is we meet those students where they are at. And that takes a lot of wraparound services, a lot of investment in their success. As a result, some fun stats to share with you. We had a 13.5% increase in our enrollment this past fall. Over the past 5 years, our dual credit has increased by 165%. We've been very intentional upon that because by focusing on that, we know the data shows us they're more likely to continue, they're more likely to be successful, and they save a lot of money. We attribute that to several strong partnerships with our K through 12 groups, as well as some internal work, as well as statewide support. Overall, our retention is up by 3.5%. And in our underrepresented minority group, we're up by over 11%. Again, very intentional work. And that doesn't just happen. I want to give you a few examples of some very basic things that we're doing, but we know based on data, it's making a radical difference. And we have 8 pages, single-spaced, of these efforts that we follow with data, but I want to highlight a few. One is our Success Academies. And so this is basically a boot camp. So when a student comes in and they test as not being college ready, we provide a very intense week or two, depending on what they mean, that they need. And the data is showing us they get significant gains from that and can step right into a class. We have one of our legislative interns here today, and we were having lunch together, and he talked about how he was one of those students, and he stepped right into a college-ready class because of that boot camp. We also do spotlight instruction. And so if a student, say, on their first exam does not test well, diagnostically, we can look, it might be in section 3. They receive additional instruction on what they did not do well on. So we're not waiting for that end result, the end of the term grade, to identify where they're at. We are stepping in and intervening immediately. So those are just 2 examples. There are many more that I would love to share in the success. One more thing that I do want to bring up that has impacted our enrollment greatly. A vital part of what we do at Bluegrass Community and Technical College is our workforce solutions. So that's customized training that we provide for our industry partners. But we also provide 4 credit opportunities in that customized training. And our 4 credit courses in our workforce area, our enrollment there has increased by 153.8% this last year. So beyond just training, they are earning credit to work toward that degree. And in this semester, we're already up by 81% compared to last spring. So it just represents very well the dedication that we have. One final thing that I want to say, this isn't just the incredible faculty and staff that we have at our college. This is partnerships. And that relates to the governor's support, that relates to our General Assembly, that definitely relates to CPE and the support that they provide, as well as being part of a system and, of course, our industry partners. We could not do it without them. We are stronger together.
Good afternoon, Governor. Thanks for having us here today. Gosh, I think the one thing I would say is we are Team Kentucky. And since 2020, higher education in Kentucky has accelerated. We have not stepped back. We have stepped forward. We have stepped out. And I think the one thing that we know as we look at our student bodies today, we have more first-generation college students coming to our campuses, more underrepresented students coming to our campus. And what it means is that we are reaching further and deeper than we ever have before to make college an opportunity. And so what I would say for those who are out there listening, to the parents, to those students out there, you can do this. And we are institutions who stand here to help. As Greg talked about, we are a system in higher, for us as we work together. Great presidents, great leadership, great teams, faculty, and staff who are working for the betterment of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. A couple of things that I'll share for EKU and what we've seen. Since 2020, the size of our freshman class has grown 30%. That is astronomical growth for an institution that serves a part of our state that is near and dear to me. I'm a first-generation college student. I'm an Eastern Kentuckian. And we want to make sure that we are serving you. Our overall enrollment increase since 2020, over 7%. Just this past year, 5% overall enrollment growth for EKU. And as Dr. Thompson alluded to, let me talk about why. It's because we have focused on access, we've focused on affordability, we focused on student support services, and we have focused on giving an exceptional experience to our students. As we think about that, EKU is proud to have launched our Book Smart program during the pandemic. As we thought about doing big things and being the school of opportunity, we said, what can we do to best impact students? That is, remove that barrier of cost. We're the only school in Kentucky where textbooks are 100% free for any student, on campus, online, undergraduate, graduate, you name it. And what we've been able to do in supporting students since 2020 is we have reduced the overall cost of attendance at Eastern Kentucky University in excess of 10%. We are proud of that. We're committed to that. And we're committed to making that success move us forward. The thing that I think is most important for the Commonwealth, what is most important for all of us, is that we're thinking about tomorrow, that we're thinking about what's next. And what's next is exactly what Dr. Thompson said. It is an economy that is going to require some post-secondary credential for us to be everything we want to be here in Kentucky. And so if I can leave a message to everyone out there, it's that your universities, your community colleges, higher education, CPE, we stand ready to help make Kentucky be the very best version of what it can be. Thank you, Governor.
So some really good news to start off this week's Team Kentucky update, and it ought to add to the good news that we've been discussing. I mean, we're coming off our best 4 years for economic development in terms of dollars invested in Kentucky. We're leading the country in enrollment. growth for higher education. This is our time. But as we're here in this budget session, to grasp our potential, we have to continue to invest. That means we continue to support higher education. It means, like Dr. Thompson said, we make sure we have a strong system, P through 20, including universal pre-K. Now is the time to do it, and we cannot address our childcare issues without universal pre-K in a meaningful way that will add slots and get more people into the workforce. Now is the time to give those K through 12 teacher raises, because we've shown, whether it's Kentucky State Police, corrections, social workers, if you pay people closer to what they're worth, you will get more and more and more people willing to do it. And we won't have subs in our classrooms. It means we have to continue to invest in infrastructure and our mega projects. We have to continue to do things like the KPDI program to have that next site ready for the next major employer that will ultimately hire our graduates. We have to continue to expand healthcare to make sure people are healthy enough to be in the workplace. We have to just continue to just do the right things that aren't red or blue. They're not D or R. They're things that give a bright future and true opportunity for all of our people. And yes, we ought to invest in areas that haven't had enough investment, and look for the areas, look for groups that haven't had enough investment over time to truly achieve. And we ought to be that hand up to make sure that everyone in the Commonwealth of Kentucky has real opportunity to succeed. And you know what? We've got the dollars to do it. We have more good news about our state finances, where we've had the 3 biggest budget surpluses in our history back to back to back. And this last month, we again exceeded over $1 billion in general fund revenue, $1.5 billion, a 5.1% increase in what we collected in December of 2022. It is the 16th straight month that we've collected over $1 billion in general fund revenue. Now is the time. This is our chance forward. We've always dreamed of what the Commonwealth can be, and we are seeing it right in front of us. Let's make sure we do what it takes, that we put in the hard work, that we make those solid investments to ultimately lead this Commonwealth to the big, bright future that we have all wanted. Next, I'd like to turn it over to the First Lady to talk about 2 very important topics.
Good afternoon. Human trafficking is a crime that hurts the most vulnerable among us. Across the globe, nearly 27.6 million people are subjected to human trafficking, including cases here in the Commonwealth. Team Kentucky is not going to stand by and accept these statistics. That's why Andy signed a proclamation to declare January as Human Trafficking Prevention Month in the Commonwealth to help raise awareness and enhance prevention. Today, I am announcing our ongoing commitment to help victims of this horrendous crime and to do our part. This week, the Kentucky State Police is participating in the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance's Human Trafficking Awareness Initiative. The goal of this partnership is to educate the nation about the warning signs to look for if you suspect that somebody is a victim. In 2023, the Kentucky State Police was one of 45 jurisdictions to participate in this nationwide initiative. Last year, over 45,000 wallet cards and over 21,000 window decals highlighting human trafficking resources were distributed nationwide. Starting now, every commercial driver who comes through a Kentucky scale house for inspection will receive a KSP informational flyer. Truckers are the eyes and ears of our nation's highways, and we rely on them to report any suspicious activity. The KSP flyer also includes a number to call to report concerning activity. KSP does amazing work in fighting human trafficking, and I am proud to work with them in these endeavors. As a mom, as First Lady, and as a member of the National Coalition for the Prevention of Human Sex Trafficking, it is my duty to remind everyone how important it is to be aware of your surroundings and to stay alert for those who may need help. That is more important than ever today, which is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. I know that it can feel very overwhelming and you might not know where to start, but please, if you see signs, don't hesitate to call 911 or the National Human Trafficking Hotline at the number on the screen. remember that your eyes may save somebody's life. I also encourage you to support local human trafficking prevention groups like Free to Hope and Catholic Charities. Their leaders both spoke about this issue at a Team Kentucky update last year, and we are grateful for their partnership. I'm proud that Andy created the Survivors Council as Attorney General, which provided a way for survivors of violent crimes, including human trafficking, to advise the office. He has continued work on this issue as governor. For example, in 2021, he announced the Operation United Front had rescued 21 victims, including 2 minors, and yielded 46 arrests. It takes all of us working together to protect our kids and vulnerable Kentuckians across our Commonwealth. Today, I also want to talk about another way we can protect our kids and all of our families, donating blood to make sure there is enough to save every person who needs it. This week, the Red Cross declared an emergency blood shortage and asked for people to donate, especially now during National Blood Donor Month. Unfortunately, the number of U.S. blood donors has reached an all-time low when we look at the past 20 years. Blood is not only needed during surgeries, but for critical plasma and platelet therapies. We also never know when a disaster may strike. Don't wait. Make an appointment today to give blood or platelets to help ensure people receive the care they need. Book now by using the Red Cross Blood Donor app, visiting redcrossblood.org, or calling 1-800-RED-CROSS. This month, those who donate will even have a chance to win a trip to the Super Bowl. And if you needed a little incentive, that seems like a pretty good one to me. Soon, Andy and I will be sharing even more information about what Team Kentucky is doing to make a difference, so please stay tuned. We need to come together for our neighbors, for our friends, and those across the Commonwealth and even our country. We need to help. I'd now like to welcome Steve Quanon, CEO of American Red Cross Kentucky Region, to tell us more about how we can help right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
We are forever grateful to Governor Beshear and his team for their continued support of the American Red Cross. The need for blood is constant throughout the year. What's intensifying that need for donors to give right now is the nation is experiencing the lowest number of people giving blood in the past 20 years. In fact, the number of people giving blood to the Red Cross has fallen by over 300,000 individuals since just 2019, some of which is due to the COVID-19 pandemic. When fewer people donate blood, even a small disruption to the blood supply can have a huge impact on the availability of blood products, and importantly, can pose serious consequences for those that need emergency blood transfusions. Blood products are currently going to hospitals at a faster rate than blood is coming into donor centers. Additional challenges lie ahead as winter weather and seasonal illnesses compound the blood supply situation the nation is currently facing. It's the blood on the shelves right now that help in times of emergency. Every 2 seconds, someone in the U.S. needs blood, be they cancer patients, those battling sickle cell disease, car accident victims, or others. The Red Cross monitors the blood supply on a daily basis and works with hospital partners to prioritize their needs. We're grateful for all donors who have generously given blood throughout Kentucky and across the country. Red Cross blood donations help ensure that we are prepared for any blood need that may arise, whenever and wherever it's needed. Individuals are needed to donate now and throughout the winter to help patients that are counting on this life-saving blood. I invite you, your friends, and your family to join in this simple act of kindness. It can make a life-saving difference, and it can ensure that patients receive the care that they need. I'd ask everybody to please consider making an appointment today to give blood or platelets at a blood drive near you in the days and the weeks ahead to ensure the Red Cross can replenish and maintain a sufficient blood supply. Make an appointment, as the First Lady has said, by using the Red Cross Blood Donor app, visiting redcrossblood.org, or calling 1-800-RED-CROSS. Governor, thank you.
A very important message.
as some of the articles I was reading that grabbed Brittany and my attention talked about delaying surgeries. Now, I've never had to have a blood transfusion, but people I love and people I care about have and do. And that's everyone else, in this country and in this Commonwealth too. All I'd add is companies out there, answer the call as well. Work with the Red Cross and others to set up blood drives where you are. Try to incentivize the folks that you work with to do the same, and then promote it, whether it's on social media or otherwise, or talking to other people. When you do a good act and you talk about it to other people and encourage people around you, do those good acts too. Incredibly important. Remember, it's someone that you care about, or someone that you care about cares about someone that already needs this service right now. And we got to make sure that there is enough blood there for everybody who will need it in the coming weeks and months. And now we're going to transition to something we're probably going to talk about every Team Kentucky update, and probably a few extra times for the next month and a half, and that's the weather. What all the meteorologists are telling us is we are going to have a very busy January through the end of February, with major system after major system after major system coming through. And we're going to work to communicate, just like your news stations do, about as much of it as we can. As you know, there was a major system that came through earlier in the week. It missed us for the most part, with the exception of some rain, which we needed, and a good amount of rain. And we're going to see more rain, which will help us in the droughts that we're facing. But I want to talk about what's coming up from pretty much tomorrow morning through the middle of next week. And it's really two weather fronts that we're dealing with, one in front of the other. Tomorrow, we are going to see very high winds. We are going to start the day with a lot of rain, but in the afternoon, we are going to have thunderstorms or the potential for scattered thunderstorms that could be strong. And if the weather clears in the middle of that, we have the possibility for more severe weather. Let's go back to the previous one, and then we'll come to this. Saturday, Sunday, we might get some small accumulation, but think about what's coming through on Friday, and that wind is going to last through the middle of Saturday. It's going to be able to certainly, push on your car when you're out there driving. You're going to have that, and you're going to have the rain. So once this starts, be really careful. I'd make sure you really need to go where you're going. But as you're headed to work Friday morning or coming back Friday afternoon, just slow down. Make sure you get there. Remember, with everything we've been through, from tornadoes to floods to the polar plunge to 2 ice storms and 2 windstorms, we can take this. We can make sure everybody's okay, but only if everybody does their part. So what will happen is we will have that on Friday, and then it's going to get really, really cold at the beginning of the week. It'll be the coldest it's been since the polar plunge, December of 2022, with the possibility that could be dangerously cold. Let's go with the strong winds tomorrow. Again, these are gusts of 45 to 55 miles an hour, with the possibility of being stronger than that. You need to pick up anything you have outside that is, not weighted down. If you still have Christmas decorations that are out, you need to pick them up today and make sure that you have them inside by tomorrow. Look around, because it could easily blow them different places, could potentially cause some property damage to you or to somebody else. So make sure you don't have things that will or could blow away. Look at the peak time is they're talking about is 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Friday, but is going to continue, we think, at some level, at least the 20 to 30 mile an hour level into Saturday. What we're going to be watching really carefully are the tree limbs and what it could do to power. Because we're going to need to be really careful about making sure we don't lose a lot of power, and or we're able to restore it between when the wind's coming in on Friday and when the temperature gets really cold at the beginning of the week. So we're going to be closely monitoring that through the Emergency Operations Center. And if we lose significant power across the state, working to set up warming centers and get that news out before the beginning of the week. Then let's go to the next one. It's going to get really cold. I mean, we are looking at negative wind chills by Wednesday morning. We think that that's when it will get the coldest, but we think it's going to get really cold, Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday. These are a little bit better than the initial forecast had, but remember, this can change, and it can get colder than this. This is cold enough, -4, -5, to cause frostbite on exposed skin with about 30 minutes outside. So it is serious and should be taken seriously. We're going to have multiple additional updates by the time we get to Wednesday, especially if this first round is significant tomorrow. I will tell you that we're watching this closely enough that I've changed my schedule for tomorrow, where I was going to be on the road for a couple of things. I'm going to be here, making sure that we are tracking this storm, both because what Friday could bring, but making sure that we are set and ready for these cold temperatures. Let's go to dressing for cold weather. This is just as important with how cold it's going to get. Just remember, the colder that it is, the more you need to bundle up, even for short periods of time. For adults that next week are going to be going to work, unless you have that remote starter, which we don't, it's going to be cold in that car. Make sure that you really bundle up and bundle up more. And for your kids going outside, make sure you're even more careful. We'll have more information as it gets to the coldest part about pets, and you'll just want to minimize the amount of time that's there. And then the last piece is, if you are going to be on the road, right now we're not necessarily seeing treacherous conditions. If we get a lot of snow in those periods where we don't think right now we'll get a lot, but if we do, this slide will become more important. If we have some precipitation, that again, right now we don't see freezing rain coming in, but it becomes more important. But just when it's that cold outside and something could happen with your car, all right, you want to make sure that you have that emergency supply kit in your car. Make sure you've got water. Make sure you have flashlights. Make sure you have blankets. This is just a good idea overall with the way weather is getting more severe. And as we move through the next couple of days, we'll have more reminders, but let me give you the one we always do. If you lose power and you have a generator, you cannot put it inside your house. More people die to carbon monoxide poisoning from generators inside or too close to their house than normally do in a weather event itself. I remember just about everybody we lost in the big ice storm when my dad was governor was about that, or trying to use a grill to heat your house. Don't do that. Don't use the oven either. Make sure you are safe, and make sure you have the information before you get on the road. So again, the rest of January and February, we're going to be talking a lot about the weather. And the reason is, if we're all weather aware, Kentucky's been wonderful about being weather aware. And thank you to all the stations, newspapers, everybody else that is reporting so regularly and so clearly on this. This is one big team effort to protect our people. Okay, I want to move on to some mobile crisis awards. Today, we have some good news to share. So we're announcing more than $4.7 million in federal and state funds that are being provided to 7 municipalities to implement community crisis co-response programs. These programs are partnerships between behavioral health, law enforcement, and first responders and local governments, and they're intended to assist Kentuckians that are in crisis, but to avoid unnecessary hospitalizations or incarcerations while having especially those mental and behavioral health services on the scene there when people need them the most. The funding being awarded was through a Cabinet for Health and Family Services grant that Medicaid is administering, and communities were invited to apply last fall. Today's awardees include the Boyle County Fiscal Court, the Christian County Fiscal Court, the Cynthiana Police Department, the Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, the Maysville Police Department, the Perry County Ambulance Authority, and the Warren County Sheriff's Office. Congratulations to these pioneers for being some of the first that are going to help us as we mold what this program will look like and how we can better help our people and not overtax some of our healthcare systems. So now we're going to hear from some of our participating communities, starting with Maysville Police Chief Michael Palmer. They will share what this.
Hello, I'm Chief Michael Palmer with the Maysville Police Department. I would like to thank Governor Andy Beshear for these much-needed funds, helping us to build a stronger community in Maysville by addressing behavioral health needs in our community. The Maysville Police Department is honored to be a recipient of the Community Crisis Co-Response Grant. Following COVID, our community, like many across the Commonwealth, has experienced an increase in behavioral health crisis calls for service. We look forward to better addressing the needs of those individuals and forming a team of qualified professionals to respond and help those individuals with their needs. We hope this award will help Maysville reduce incarceration, reduce inappropriate emergency room visits, decrease repeat encounters for individuals in crisis with law enforcement, increase first responder competence, and provide intervention services and referrals to individuals in crisis. And finally, to provide an increased level of care and access to mental health services to those in behavioral health crisis. As a law enforcement officer, we are called to serve and to be our brother's keeper. These individuals in crisis are our neighbors, they're our friends, and they're our families. We must do our utmost to help them overcome their situation. Again, we would like to thank Governor Andy Beshear for this wonderful opportunity to make not only Maysville better, but Kentucky better through Community Crisis Co-Response Grant. Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to hear from Boyle County Judge Executive Trilly Bottom on what this award means to a community that's doing so much. Remember, they were the first county to become a recovery-ready community, and this just continues their efforts to make sure they're providing their people the very best from the very best at times where it takes that specialized training to get people the best outcome.
Hello from Boyle County. I am Trilly Bottom, Boyle County Judge Executive. Thank you, Governor Beshear and the Cabinet for Family Health and Services for awarding our county an $850,000 grant for a community crisis co-response team. Through the Boyle County EMS and other local agencies, this funding provides a much-needed alternative by allowing us to bring critical resources to the individuals in need in their environment where it can be most effectively administered. Right now, our Boyle County citizens that are experiencing a mental health crisis only have two choices, jail or the emergency room, which are only capable of providing a short-term solution, which is not always the appropriate setting. So on behalf of the Boyle County Fiscal Court and the Boyle County EMS, we are grateful to bring these innovative services to our citizens and to our county. Again, thank you, Governor Beshear.
And finally, we're going to hear from Perry County EMT Scott Helly.
Hello, my name is Scott Helly. I'm an EMT with Perry County Ambulance Authority here in Hazard, Kentucky. I would like to say thank you to Governor Andy Beshear and his office for awarding us the Community Crisis Co-Response Grant. Here at Perry County Ambulance, we continually look for ways to improve the care that we provide to our citizens. This is why in 2022, through a funding opportunity made available to us, we took the initiative to create the Crisis Response Team to respond to mental health crises differently than we had in the past. Now, because of this gracious award from Governor Beshear, we'll be able to bring on board a full-time community paramedic and a full-time peer support specialist or case manager. This team will respond to mental health crises across our coverage area. Community members in need can get to treatment quicker without being transported to ER to wait hours to be seen by mental health providers. This team will also be able to ensure citizens with mental health crises are able to get the right treatment at the right place for them. Again, we would like to thank you to Governor Andy Beshear and his office on behalf of Perry County Ambulance Authority and those that we serve.
This is an exciting next step, and when added to so many different steps from the expansion of telehealth to the 988 crisis hotline, we are doing more than ever to focus on mental health and to make sure those that are having mental health or addiction, an addiction crisis, to see the people best trained to help them. A lot more is going to need to be done when you look at how many services ultimately end up being provided between mental health and physical health. We've got to do a lot to close the gap, but this is an important part of our future about how we take care of our people and how we keep our people well. All right. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I declared a state of emergency for the community of Fleming Neon in Eastern Kentucky. I wanted to share an update on the coordinated efforts various state agencies are taking to address this crisis. Kentucky Emergency Management has been actively involved in our emergency response, and 22 pallets of bottled water were delivered on January 5th, with an additional 10 pallets scheduled for delivery today. This immediate action provides essential relief to residents, as this is a water shortage that they're dealing with. The Energy and Environment Cabinet's Division of Water and the Kentucky Rural Water Association have helped locate several leaks and made repairs. While the majority of Fleming Neon water customers should have their water services restored, some higher elevation areas may experience irregular service due to low water levels in storage tanks. In response to this, a new valve has been installed in the Seco area, allowing the use of water from the Letcher County Water District, including for Martha Jane Potter Elementary School. Though the water plant is still at reduced production, staffers have been working tirelessly, treating an average of 300,000 gallons per day, which should be sufficient to maintain all 1,000 connections. To supplement the water supply, Fleming Neon is purchasing approximately 150,000 gallons per day from other systems. I want to ensure you that our Kentucky Department of Public Health is actively monitoring the water situation and is also on standby if needed. This is a lot of work, especially from the local officials, but also from the state, to make sure that, again, this is as short of a state of emergency as it can be. And then when you look at this budget, from the $500 million in grants for water and sewer systems to the fund that is in there to support the regionalization of water systems, to make sure there is redundancy. And when one of these challenges happens, we're already hooked up to another system, and or smaller systems have come together to have a big enough base to have the dollars to invest and to update their water systems. Now, there is a lot in my proposed budget that tries to get us to a better day where we don't face some of these challenges. But we believe that we're getting the Fleming Neon situation under control, and that the citizens there are going to see regular water as we move forward. Finally, an update on CAVIS. This is the rollout of the new vehicle information system. Work started as planned to introduce the new vehicle information system statewide that replaces the 45-year-old database that was used primarily by county clerks for vehicle and boat transactions. Over 250 million records had to be converted from the legacy system to the new one. That's been done. While we know some challenges are expected with a massive transfer of systems, the team is resolving issues quickly, and overall the system's working and performing well. We do ask for continued patience, as something came up one day that a solution was attempted, which created a firewall, which we then had to deal with to get the system working again. So as we address each of the situations that may arise, just a little bit of patience, as we've got our Commonwealth Office of Technology working hard and getting results. So 90 counties have performed transactions using CAVIS already. Access to CAVIS will be available to all counties by the end of the week. Some county clerks' offices have resumed in-person services, and more are expected to open their doors to the public this week and next week. Online vehicle registration renewal resumes statewide Wednesday night. So thank you to everyone who is working hard on it. And finally, our Team Kentucky All-Stars, is we wanted to recognize everyone that is working to educate people about the coming weather systems, or who are going to be out there on the roads preparing for it. Everybody out in transportation that's going to be driving a plow or salting the roads, make sure that you give them plenty of space. Their work is incredibly important. We don't want to interrupt it. And remember, these are very large pieces of equipment, and getting too close is not a good idea for your own personal safety. But to everybody from city to counties to statewide crews, we're going to need you over the next month and a half, if not a little bit more. And we want to thank you in advance and name you our Team Kentucky All-Stars. All right, we got a number of journalists that are here with us today. We'll start with Sarah Michaels from Bluegrass Live.
Governor, you spoke about your educational budget priorities. Some Republican lawmakers have argued that the issue is not necessarily lack of funding, but administrative bloat. How would you respond to that, and how would you combat that?
Well, I believe that our budget is absolutely necessary to stay competitive. If you look at what Indiana and Tennessee are doing, they're not making these arguments so as not to invest. They are investing. You look at Tennessee, and they did mandatory teacher raises, something that one or two legislative leaders may be balking at. But guess what? The Republican governor of Tennessee and the Republican legislature did it, and they're bragging about being top 10 in the country. And guess where our teachers from Southern Kentucky are going? They're going to Tennessee because of that raise. Now, when you look at pre-K, my goodness, the only way we're going to increase childcare overall, get more parents back in the workforce, is to pair pre-K with childcare. The other requests that are out there on childcare don't increase one slot. They just ask for money to keep the current amount of slots. Universal pre-K with all 4-year-olds solves 25% of the childcare needs in the state by taking every 4-year-old. For that period of the day, at least 34,000 more kids would get pre-K services. Think about how many parents that is, that either you're saving that money, maybe $8,000 that year, or you're allowing them to get back in the workforce because they can't afford that $8,000 and have decided to otherwise stay home. These are common sense solutions. If we move all 4-year-olds to pre-K, you open up all the slots that 4-year-olds were in childcare, and then we provide the funding that's needed to make that transition. But you can always try to find an excuse not to invest, but the areas and the places that are succeeding are investing. And finally, let's just look at the facts. Everywhere we've needed more employees that are connected to government, what have we done? We've paid them more. State police, we provided a $15,000 raise, and we got more applications than ever. We're over 1,000 troopers for the first time in years, and it's turned around. We significantly increased pay in corrections and DJJ, and oh my goodness, the numbers of employees that we're getting are night and day from what we had before. Our correction system in the best place, certainly since I've been governor, but I believe in probably 12 to 20 years. And what we're able to do, we have more social workers since we raised pay. So every other place that we've had a shortage, we've raised pay and it's worked. Why aren't we willing to do the same for our educators and our public school employees? We know what works. We just got to step up and do it. Karen Czar.
Governor, how prepared is the Department of Transportation for this season as far as crew size, supplies, and also if, and there's no way to predict everything, we get in another situation like 2 years ago with interstate shutdown.
Yeah.
What have we learned as far as preventing that?
Well, our transportation cabinet does an incredible job, and I believe they will be ready for anything that Mother Nature throws at us. What we learned in especially the polar plunge is first communicate. Thankfully, a lot of Kentuckians decided to stay off the roads during that period of time, even though it was right up to Christmas Eve. I know we changed plans with my family, got together on Christmas, but not on Christmas Eve because of it. The biggest challenge we have isn't Kentucky drivers. It's the major tractor trailers that continue to move through our state. In the same spot at I-71, we had 2 or 3 accidents that really created the major issue during that. And while we had some others because it was dangerous and cold out there, that was our biggest problem. But we were prepared. We had National Guard. We had other emergency response ready out there with blankets, able to keep people warm, even in big backups. And we had no serious injuries during it. I wish I could tell you that we could keep an accident from happening on our interstates. But what we have to be prepared for is to respond to save lives and preserve life during those situations.
Supplies and crew sizes are good.
I believe that they will be sufficient to meet what we have, though I do want to say we are seeing bigger and bigger weather events, and we will be ready. But I want to be humble in everything we face since I've been governor to say that we're planning, and I believe we're ready. But we want to make sure we're communicating on major weather events. The best thing you could do is stay home or stay where you are until it's safer to travel. Carolina.
Governor, sticking on this topic, have you or your team been having discussions with Kentucky power providers? In December of 2022, we saw those rolling power outages.
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to avoid such events?
Well, I know that the power providers are working overall to increase capacity to ensure the stable capacity. What we had during the polar plunge was negative, 15, negative 20, negative 30. That is the toughest set of days that those power companies will ever face, maybe have ever faced. And so that's truly that high water mark. And I remember we were about to have some other planned outages on or about Christmas Eve that we did not have to, because everybody was calling saying, let me know when, because I'm cooking. But I believe with the temperatures we're seeing here, we should be okay. My bigger concern on this one is the branches. How many branches we're going to have fall, especially tomorrow, how many people will knock power out for, and how long it takes to get power up. So I can tell you the immediate conversation I'm going to be having is, and we got the big board over at the EOC, which you've seen, that shows the numbers that are out, how many people are out, and what's the schedule to get them back on. My biggest worry right now is that everybody has power for how cold it's going to be. Obviously, our cities need to be planning ahead for their homeless populations and others, just to make sure everybody has a safe, warm place. Bodie Brooks.
Thank you, Governor. There was a bill filed this week by, I believe, Senator Wilson that would change the power of the governor to appoint members to the Board of Education, and you said those would be partisan races. Your general thoughts on that change, as well as a continued attempt here at chipping away the governor's power?
A partisan state board of education is a terrible idea. I mean, to inject direct partisanship on how people become a member, to bring them into this craziness that you see in those type of elections right now, when we need them to be nonpartisan, serving each and every one of our kids to, and when you look at the framework and what's required from the Constitution to the Rose decision, we need people who are ready to go and to get to work and aren't worried about getting elected from a group of people, especially when they have to make tough decisions. We don't have partisan school board races, and they're trying to create a partisan board of education. That's just a really bad idea. That's how I really feel. Austin.
Thank you, Governor. What do you make of some legislators' push on anti-DEI legislation in the context of MLK Day?
I believe that diversity is an asset, not a liability. I believe as a Commonwealth, we should be saying we want diverse population, diverse thought, that this is a welcoming place for everyone, and that we also recognize that while this is the greatest country on the history of planet Earth, we have made mistakes in this country that still reverberate today, and that we have a duty to address them. But I also don't think that when people put together those bills that they looked at what DEI, diversity and inclusion really is, and what it could mean to put some of these laws into place. Let's first go with, just about every major corporation in America has one of these policies. And we want to say, no, we don't agree with it or believe in it. When I'm trying to recruit the biggest companies in the country and from around the world, I want to be able to look at them and say, we will work to get you a diverse workforce, which is what you want. And we should be serving the private sector for that. But with all the dollars that are out there right now from the federal government, it's really important that everybody look at what the definition that the federal government, and I believe that CPE and others use for what diversity, equity, inclusion is. So the federal government put out an executive order that has these definitions. And equity, if you'll put up there, means consistent and systematic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who belong to this. These are the two important words: underserved communities. So this boogeyman that people are using called DEI, who is it supposed to benefit? Well, the equity is supposed to benefit underserved communities. I want to show you part, because it has a lot in it, of the definition of underserved communities. Persons who live in rural areas, veterans and military spouses, and persons otherwise adversely affected by persistent poverty. And I put these, obviously there are the other pieces that people see in their mind. There's absolutely and should be a race aspect to this and others. But I mean, right now our state legislature is pushing back against a concept that is meant to help people, including rural Americans, veterans, and areas adversely affected by persistent poverty. That is almost all of Kentucky. The way that this is defined federally should give us an advantage to securing federal grants, to securing these federal dollars. And just, again, I worry that this is the boogeyman to rile people up and yet another election, as opposed to talking about what it really means. I mean, this is something that means going into communities that have been overlooked for a number of reasons, from racism to poverty to parts of rural America. And it's something that ultimately, from a federal government standpoint, can mean more dollars come into Kentucky instead of less. But let me go back to the beginning. I believe that diversity is a strength, and I'm going to support it. And I'm going to support our companies who want to push for a diverse workforce. I think it makes us better. Stu Johnson. Do we have Stu? Huh? Okay. Then on the line, we've got Tom Late. All right. Tom Latek is off. This is a first. All right. I think then the last one we have is Sylvia Goodman.
Thank you, Governor. So I just, obviously we've heard today from several leaders in higher education, and we've also seen a number of bills aimed at higher education come through the legislature. And one of those filed recently would limit tuition increases. I was wondering if you've seen that piece of legislation. What are your initial thoughts on it?
I am concerned and have been concerned about tuition increases. I do think that if we're going to make sure we address the problem, we're also looking at other sources that help those students, and we look at the total cost that they are facing. But I believe that the bill is filed, at least from what I've seen in the beginning, that piece from a good place, worried about tuition going up 5% every year. Not that it is in every place, and how that compounds and what it means. But let me say this. Our universities and our community college systems are knocking it out of the park. Number one in the country in increased enrollment. That is an amazing thing. It's going to help us to have an amazing future. And so my hope would be this starts as a discussion with these institutions, with how hard they're working, gets into all the finances and the reasons, and then sees the various levers of support. But I absolutely welcome having the conversation of how much tuition should be going up, because we have to make sure that college is affordable to everyone, when for so long college has not been affordable to many groups of people here in Kentucky. Want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. Again, make sure to be weather aware. Finally, do good things, be kind to each other. Thank you.